Hey there, it's Kelly O'Connell, author and attorney. How you doing today? Thank you for joining me. All right, so I got something that's not going to be for everybody, and I know there's a lot of hatred towards Tom Brady. Now, some of it has to do with he's been too successful. He's older than anybody else, and he's still getting the job done. That's frustrating for some people. Another reason is he's a beautiful person who's married to a supermodel and they're worth hundreds of millions. I understand that. Another reason is he's been implicated in cheating, although I really don't buy into the Deflategate controversy, and I think if Bill Bellichik was filming other teams because he's obsessive about winning, don't put that on Brady. Yeah, he might have benefited from that. I don't have a doubt. But I think Tom, he can't go on too much longer at this level. I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that he's somebody special. I mean, everybody knows that. People no longer fight this idea that he's the greatest of all time. He's just done it for so long at such a high level. But I wanted to get into this particular thing that I think is important, is that he's now being termed by other pro athletes and former pro athletes and commentators as the most influential and the greatest leader in the history of sports. And I thought about that. And, you know, you have to look at people like Michael Jordan, who won 6 championships out of 6 tries. And he was extremely, extremely influential on his teammates and got the best out of them. But I think changing teams and bringing together people who were even retired onto his team and getting them to compete with him and to be able to, you know, motivate people on a team that was just brand new and had a very controversial quarterback before that, Jameis Winston, and he got people onto the team that made a huge difference in the Super Bowl. One of which was Gronkowski, obviously scored 2 touchdowns, but also Antonio Brown, who was basically almost out of football before Tom talked him into trying the Buccaneers. So anyway, let me get to this little piece that I put together. You can get in there and tell me I'm full of it. I don't mind. But it's worth considering anyway. Now, I'm calling this, and you can laugh at this if you want, it's Tom Brady's Rime of the Ancient Mariner as current Buccaneer king, and obviously that's a play on the fact that he's a Buccaneer, he's a seaman. Buccaneers are sailors, and actually pirates. And actually, you know what? I've never looked that up. I got to find out what the definition of Buccaneer is. Let me look it up real quick. I think it's a pirate, isn't it? Let's see here. Buccaneer. Oh. Originally, the name applied to the landless hunters of wild boars and cattle in the largely uninhabited areas of Tortuga and Hispaniola. Well, that's interesting. And this is obviously from Wikipedia, Buccaneers were a kind of privateers or free sailors particular to the Caribbean Sea in the 17th and 18th century. First established on northern Hispaniola as early as 625, their heyday was from Restoration until 1660. Until about 1688. Their heyday was from the Restoration in 1660. That's the British Civil War, and Oliver Cromwell took over. They killed the king, and then the royal family was restored to the crown. So from 1660 to 1688, during a time when governments were not strong enough and did not consistently attempt to suppress them. So privateers are free sailors. And all right, so I guess not quite pirates, but they're kind of free range sailors. and out to get a buck, like we all are. All right, so it's Tom Brady's Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and in the Ancient Mariner is the famous quote, "Water, water everywhere, and nary a drop to drink." It's a guy that's dropped. He's marooned. He's out to sea, and he's not doing well. So I'm going to assume there's a lot of Brady hatred out there, and I understand it, as I've already stated. Why? In fact, I myself used to be indifferent to Tom Terrific, but overall he's achieved something special, and tonight Tom Brady beat his old team, the Patriots, against evil genius Bill Bellichik, whom owner Robert Kraft recently called the biggest he ever met. A-hole. And it was in Boston in the rain and very emotional for a lot of people. Now for the anti-Brady clan, it was full of hatred. Others could care less, but there were a lot of Brady fans across the country who wanted to see a shootout with the young prince-in-waiting Mac Jones, and it did not disappoint. It was a hell of a game. And by the way, this is the most hotly and widely anticipated game probably of the whole season. But instead of a shootout, it turned into a defensive battle, and the final score was 17-19, and it was really exciting. Tom was not throwing touchdowns. They were more along the lines of kicking the ball, and I think Tom might have run one in where the lead went back and forth, and with I think 50 seconds to go, the other team got the ball, and the Patriots got the ball, and they brought their kicker out. He had never kicked a ball and scored a goal, field goal this far, and it was in the rain, so he kicked it, and it flew far enough, but it hit the upright. It hit the upright, and it bounced away. So, the weather in Boston is lousy, and it just didn't go their way, but there's obviously some great lessons here. And the first lesson is that you need a lot of luck to have ultimate success like Tom, or call it the grace of God, which is probably more appropriate. Now, that's not to suggest Brady's a Christian. I don't think he is, because I've never heard him say that, and that's all I base it on. Second, you keep yourself in shape and have goals and work out fiendishly. And, most people, when they get to the end of their career, they're not working out as hard as they can, no matter what career they're in. Now, Tom's something like 44 years old this year, and he won the Super Bowl last year on a brand new team, and it shocked a lot of people, because up to that point, they thought he was a what you call a system quarterback. He was on Bill Belichick's system, and because of Bill Bellichik, he had all that success, but then Belichick lost Tom. He didn't want to re-sign him, maybe. I don't know, maybe he did, but I think Tom was looking for more love somewhere else. And Bill Belichick's famous for cutting people even before they're finished. So it was a way of Tom showing the world and proving something that must have been immensely satisfying for him. And it was Tom and not Bill Bellichik who was the most special. Now, you see this young quarterback and how well he's trained, how well he's doing, you might have a second thought on that, but it really put Bill Bellichik in his place. Now, third, it's been said that Tom is an unprecedented leader. Fourth, you have to treat and more on that in a second. Fourth, you have to treat the people that you're close to, your family and your friends, well, which it seems Tom has done, so he just gets a lot of respect in the league. Tons of respect. Now, when they call Tom the greatest sports leader of all time, what does it actually mean? I mean, it's, you hear this person's the greatest at this one's the greatest at that. It doesn't really mean much, because how would you take, say somebody is the greatest running back of all time 75 years ago? If you brought him here today, would he actually even do well? Nobody knows. And so this, by the way, can't be based just on success, because many famous successful athletes are divas and are known to be arrogant and selfish. But we saw an example of just how persuasive and powerful Tom is just a few days ago. when Tom called his old antagonist Richard Sherman, the cornerback formerly of the Seahawks, and he was also on the 49ers, had famously helped beat Tom's team as a Seahawk. He snatched an interception. He knocked down all kinds of passes. He was just unbelievable. But then he was frankly classless afterwards. After the game, Sherman went up to Tom on camera, got in his face, and said, "You mad, bro?" Which was ridiculous. Now, all these years later, Sherman was without a team, and Tom Brady called him up, believe it or not. During a Wednesday press conference, just last Wednesday, Sherman said Brady told him, "You better come or you're going to regret not coming." So Richard Sherman signed a few days ago for 1 year, then played tonight, even though he wasn't supposed to, because one of the cornerbacks had broken ribs. And the problem this year with the Buccaneers is their defense is banged up, and they're having trouble stopping people. Well, Richard Sherman tonight picked up a fumble, and he made a huge difference in the game. And I also put on this, if you go to Canada Free Press, I have a troll tape of all the terrible things that Richard Sherman has done to torment people over the years, and it's entertaining. It's also a little, I don't know, man. I don't get into that type of thing, but this is an example of someone not satisfied with ordinary success, seeking the ultimate success, and I mean Tom, not Sherman. Tom's a winner even if you hate his guts, because he doesn't hold grudges and was willing to forgive Sherman and work for something bigger. That's the key there. It's not just the forgiveness. Although when Tom's team beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, Sherman came up and shook his hand, and Tom hesitated for a minute and then shook his hand and said, "You're a great player." Now, having never heard Tom profess faith, it doesn't seem like he's a Christian, so maybe he hasn't arrived at the ultimate. Yet in the last Super Bowl, Brady got down on the field with his family on their knees, and it was a powerful reminder of how immense our family bonds. And when you treat people well, it's often a result of understanding the family dynamic, right? So when you can deeply influence people, it often comes from a place of deep human understanding that is actually learned in a functional family. Brady asked a retired superstar to join him. So tight end Rob Gronkowski did, and he ended up scoring 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And it was just because he and Brady have been on the same page so many times, and I think now they've scored 100. Didn't somebody say they had scored 100 touchdowns together? It's some unbelievable thing. Again, Brady has so much persuasion from how respectful he treats others. And despite his success, so even top-notch pro athletes are humble. And consider how Tom became Antonio Brown's wide receiver whisperer when the troubled superstar that no one liked anymore or trusted was persuaded into joining the Buccaneers. Brown stayed in Brady's mansion when he got to Tampa and was called a friend so both could work on a larger goal, which was winning a Super Bowl. But Brown could have easily ended up out of football the way he was headed. He had supposedly assaulted his workout trainer, some lady, and he had gotten in fights. He had just done a bunch of stupid stuff, you know. He was given this giant new contract by Oakland and then ended up insulting people and acting like an idiot, and he was very close to leaving football, I believe. So Tom not only saved him from leaving, but gave him a role, put a lot of faith in him, and it paid off. So Tom is called on ancient wisdom to help achieve current greatness. He's patient, unflappable under pressure, works extremely hard to constantly improve, and never gives up after defeat. Now, Brady's ultimate purpose would be fulfilled as a Christian, and the reason I keep saying that is, how do you say somebody is a great person? What do you measure it against? Well, ultimately, most people in this society would say Christ is the greatest person. But if he's not saved, you can still see a lot of spiritual strengths and practices in his life that help make him great. And I think that's important, that you have a society that at one time was Christian, and whether people in it were saved, what you call saved, born again, whatever you want to call it, they had picked up a lot of teachings from the church that helped make them persuasive and successful and great. And one of them's forgiveness, another one's hard work, another one's honesty, all these great things. So anyway, Brady's a wonderful role model for average people to remind them to never give up because he's the ultimate overachiever. He's worked hard since he's not the most talented guy, but he's now considered the GOAT, the greatest of all time, since he's repeatedly made the most of his talent and won multiple Super Bowls, which is how I gotta put that in there, and won multiple Super Bowls over several decades. Something like 3 decades, right? Tom's famous for perpetually being the first to arrive at practice and the last to leave. So, while not a perfect man, yet in a time of extreme dysfunction, anger, and national confusion, Tom Brady stands out as a real man, athlete, and genuine leader. Christ said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Someday Brady might be called to fill a bigger role in this country. Who knows? But meanwhile, whatever you do, don't be a Brady hater, but enjoy his reign while it lasts. All right, so I'm going to skip the weird news. Well, let me see what I've got for you here for weird news, because I did pick up a couple of nice stories the last time I was in here. That's definitely weird. All right, so I got 2 or 3 for you. All right. So, homophobic hotel boss tells lesbian couple 24 and 26 who complained about unclean room, "You should be put in a cage with the rest of the wild animals." As Booking.com launches a probe, Nicole Calder, and this is in England, in UK, and Lauren Inglis, 24 and 26, stayed at a Newcastle hotel on Saturday, complained about state of the room and homophobic abuse from other guests. Pair were shocked to receive a response from a hotel accusing them of lying about the issue before telling them people like you should be kept in a cage. Hotel owner Andy Singh vehemently denies that his email was homophobic. And so they had booked into the Clifton Mount Hotel in Newcastle on Saturday night. And Nicole had booked the room as part of a birthday celebration, and then was appalled when they were given a filthy room littered with crumbs, lipstick, smeared glasses, and unwashed bedding. And it was in an email that he said that they were filthy animals that should be put in a cage. And the room was 130 pounds, and a pound is about $1.50, so about $200 room, I guess. And anyway, what would you do? What would you do? So this is the kind of thing that obviously anybody would be insulted, but because, they are really, really getting insulted here, that they'll probably get their money back from Hotel.com. All right, so zombie parasite lives inside fishball eyes and controls its behavior, according to a new study, and this goes back to 2017. And the last story was, I think, pretty new, was in, that's 2018. I'm trolling around trying to get the best stories for you. All right, so some parasites simply kill their hosts. Other parasites, however, force their hosts to kill them. And that's one interesting thing, is a lot of times parasites will kill an animal. How does that help them if they're living off that animal? But it's probably through the process that their eggs are laid and hatched and everything. So a fish infected with Diplostomum pseudospathicium parasite is creepy. It penetrates a fish's skin before traveling to its eye and setting up house there, and begins to grow. And once it's there, the parasite controls the fish behavior, forcing the fish to get itself eaten by a bird. That's weird. And it's part of the parasite's complex tripartite lifestyle, and new scientist explains how it works. First, parasites mate in a bird's digestive tract, shedding their eggs in its feces. The eggs hatch in the water into larvae that seek out freshwater snails to infect. They grow and multiply inside the snails before being released into the water, ready to track down their next host, a fish. The parasites then penetrate the skin of fish and travel to the lens of the eye to hide out and grow. Then the fish get eaten by a bird and the cycle starts again. And so, anyway, pretty bizarre. Here's one last thing that I thought was pretty famous. If you get into a shower or if you get into a pool, do you pee? And I think some people just automatically do it, and I might be one. I'm not saying I am, but I mean, I'm not looking down on you. So here's from the Express UK, and this was published 2021 September. This is a fresh story, friends. Do you pee in the shower? Doctor explains why you should immediately give up the habit, and debate on whether it's okay or not to pee in the shower has traditionally revolved around hygiene. But a physician went on TikTok to explain why it's more than that, and combining pee and shower time has recently been advocated as an efficient means to save water and time. Help the planet too. And in a survey conducted by Showers to You last year, 76% of respondents admitted to doing it. So don't feel ashamed. Most of your friends do it. However, U.S. Fission has taken to social media to explain why it's not conducive to human anatomy. In the viral TikTok video, Dr. Alicia Jeffrey Thomas from Boston Urology, and urology, of course, has to do with urinary tract, addresses the sensitive topic in a video titled Why You Shouldn't Pee in the Shower. The physician explained that the habit could affect both the bladder fitness and pelvic floor. In the video, which has many, many views, Thomas explained, if you pee in the shower or turn on the faucet or turn on the shower and then sit on the toilet and pee while the shower is running, you're creating an association in the brain between the sound of running water and having to pee. And when you combine that with pelvic floor dysfunction, then that will potentially lead to some bladder leak issues when you hear water running in the shower. So it could cause you to have an urge to pee that you can't stop once you hit once you hear that water. So I think that sounds absolutely stupid, but I mean, I'm not a urologist, so what do I know? All right, Kelly O'Connell, hey, would you please consider putting in a little join, subscribe, and give me a thumbs up. Have a great day. Wonderful to spend time with you. Kelly O'Connell. Knockout Radio, Knockout Podcast. Ciao.